Hi there, Sean. Hi, Andrew.
Hi, Emin.
Hello, how are you?
Hello.
Good. Hi, Christian.
Hey, how's it going, everyone?
Doing great. So, I saw Andreas prepared the agenda, so I expect him to join any minute. Here's Brett as well. Welcome, Brett.
So,
I guess I'll reach out to Andrea and see if he's on his way. There you go. Hi, Andrea.
Hi, sorry I'm late.
Sorry to bump on you.
Can you see my screen?
Yeah, yeah.
I couldn't be at home for the meeting today, so it might be a bit noisy. There is some background noise. Sorry about that. So I just put the link to the notes on the chat. Yeah, it's pretty fast, so it's probably good to get started. So welcome everyone to the CDEvents working group. Today is March the 4th. My name is Andrea Fritzoli. I work for IBM, and feel free to sign in the notes. Signing it right now. So we have a couple of things on the agenda. As usual, I put some items there. If there are more things that you would like to discuss, please bring them up as we go. Yeah, so I don't see Ben today, so probably some of the link proposal we might skip unless he joins later. And yeah, but let's get started with the things on the agenda. So the is the current order okay, or anything? Anyone has anything they would like to discuss first, or?
Looks good to me.
sounds fun to me.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. So action items still from a couple of weeks ago. We have to define interoperability in our documentation. Something Ben brought up. That's still pending. Then I wanted to bring up one issue that David is one of the Rust SDK containers brought up. It's about the subject type that we have in the specification today. David has been looking through kind of the specification and how we define things, and he found some inconsistencies, and specifically this the subject type. We discussed a bit with him over Slack, and we didn't really find any use for it today. So there is basically a proposal to remove it. Let me just open it. And I wanted to get an idea of what people thought about this. And say something we can proceed with. Basically, today we have, maybe it's better to open an example of an event. Sorry. Right, so today this is an example of a CDEvent, and we have in the type the subject, which is artifact, and the predicate, which is deleted. And then in the subject, we have one field called type, which is again artifact, similar to, so this corresponds actually to the subject that we have in the type. And if I take another event, like the pipeline run, so where the subject is made of 2 words, in the type is 2 words all lowercase, and in the subject it's 2 words, but it's camel case. So I guess the question is, do we really need subject.type, since the information provided by subject.type is always available in the context type? So this seems to be redundant, that it's a different case. So it's, one needs to know how to produce it again, but it does not provide extra valuable information. So that's kind of the starting point, and so that's basically it. So the proposal discussed with David would be, as a first step, to mark subject type as optional, and we could then remove it from the examples. Then make sure SDKs do not rely on that field, and then finally remove it from the schema as first step. But yeah, so just wanted to see what people thought about this, and if you have any thoughts right away. Otherwise, please, I would ask you to maybe comment on the issue, so we can let David know whether it's fine to continue with this or not.
And yeah, I think we talked a bit about this sort of a year ago or 2 years ago, maybe, when we first defined the subject. And the reason for including it was for convenience reasons, right? That it's good to have the type handy as one specific field, and not not need to parse the context.type field. If you want to create a filter of some kind, it would be maybe easier to filter it on the subject type. And also there we have the possibility to use the camel case, which we don't have the possibility to do in the context type. So I think that there are some benefits of keeping it, but yes, it is an application. I also added a related ticket or issue in the agenda there, not on this ticket, but on the agenda for today, where I actually proposed to split the subject into subject and predicate to 2 different objects, and in that there should be then a predicate type in a similar way. So maybe we don't need to discuss splitting them really, but if we would remove the subject type here, we should probably also remove the predicate type from that proposal here. Yeah, it's not a major relation maybe, but anyway. But what is your take, Andrea, on the need for the subject type? You feel that we can live without it, or?
Yeah, I think and I remember what you mentioned, that we thought was to be convenient. But after, I guess, writing using CDEvents for some time, my feeling, or updated feeling, is that it's more of a field that you have to put there, maybe generating some confusion why it is there. but it's not. I don't see the big value that provides. I mean, in terms of filtering, the first level of filtering is going to be usually the type, the context type, so the type of the event. But it is true that if you don't have the subject individual, you need to rely on things like regular expression or matching rather than exact match.
But I feel that that's quite okay now since we have the SDKs in place as well. I mean, when we started to define this, we didn't have an SDKs available, and we thought then that it's good that the schemas themselves or the JSON structures themselves should be easy to parse. But since most users of CDEvents would anyway have the SDKs handy, both for producing and parsing CDEvents, then I think such things could be created or provided through the SDKs as well to easily parse out the subject type or the subject itself. So yeah, I agree that the need for this might have decreased a bit since the initial versions.
Do we have a user story? Like why I would use type?
No, I don't think we have a user story. I think it was, as Emma's mentioned, it was introduced for convenience, especially when we didn't have the SDK to make it easier to parse the subject. But yeah, I think that the value is decreased now, and it seems to be now more of a duplication of what we already have in the type.
So like I'm looking at it and I'm trying to come up with the English of like where I would use type in the context of I need the subject for this event, whereas you hit the subject and then are you context. Anyway, I'm trying to work in my head where type would be useful over some of the other data that's already there that is there.
I think one thing we would lack if we remove the type is, of course, the camel case version of the subject name, so to say, which is not done in the context type. I'm not sure how important that is, but yeah. I would guess that the SDK methods that create these types of these events would anyway have, I mean, the method names would themselves be camel case, at least in Java, and maybe in other languages as well. And then you would anyway need to have that camel casing of the subject name somehow. I'm not sure if that's a pro or a con towards removing the type, but just a comment.
So yeah, okay, I got it now. So right in the subject, I got content, I get my pipeline name. I've got outcome, which is really the most important part. In the type, I can go say, hey, this is a pipeline run. And then I've got an ID for it. I don't know.
Yeah, the thing is that this type of message, so this pipeline run finished, can only contain this type of subject. So
okay. Yeah. So like I've looked at it for 10 minutes now or 5 minutes. That subject type isn't what I'd look for. I'd look for the context type. That's what I care about. And I would expect the context type to be able to tell me what just happened. And to Emil's point, the only thing we'd have to talk through is when would I need the camel case name of the event or the type of event. Hmm.
When we generate the SDK methods, Andrea, in that SDK generation tool we have nowadays, does it base it on the file names then, or also does it base it on the JSON schema content?
That's a good question. I need to check because we have different tools. I mean, we have one in Go, one in Rust, and one in Java, and that's something that we need to check. I mean, the source of the generation is always the schema files, but yeah, I don't know if there is any dependency specifically to the type, or the type is something that is, just one field in that goes in the corresponding structure. Yeah. So for parsing events, at least in Go, I think I look at the context type. So I parse the type first, and then so I do like a partial parsing of the context, because that's identical for all type events. And then based on the type, I can create the actual type of object that is required to parse the whole message. On the parsing side, I definitely don't use the subject type in Go, but I would expect it to be similar in the other languages.
If I look at the schema for this pipeline run finish, for example, the only place where we use the camel casing of the type, the subject name, is actually in this type field in the schema. So there's nothing else within the schema itself where we use the camel case syntax. So then if we remove that from the schema, it means that there's no way for an SDK generator to be able to create that structure, right, in the method names. And not even the file name of the schema is camel case, so there's no other place actually.
Yeah, and I wouldn't rely on the name of the file for data. It's bad idea. Okay, so based on that, what you just said, Emil, do we just leave it? Like, being able to generate SDKs to me is more than enough reason to leave it or mark it optional.
We can mark it optional for sure, but we can leave it, yeah. So maybe we should always have it there, but have it optional.
Yes. And then we would just have to know that if we're generating an SDK from the files, that they need to have that type, or else they're not going to generate right.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no way I would want to use the file name.
The other bits of data we have is the ID. And in the ID, we have the different words separated out by a dash. So that's something that could be used, to.
But how would we know if the subject or the predicate has two words in it? Couldn't it be so that, I mean, today we might not have any predicates that are two words, but in the future we might. Then we will not know if the first two words are the subject or the predicate, right? Or when generating.
Well, I guess you could compare it against the.
Yeah, okay, yeah, we could, of course. It will make it a bit complex, but yeah, maybe possible.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. No, it just feels a bit weird for generating code to have that field in every message that is sent around, and every CDEvent that is sent around by everyone, to have that bit of data repeated. so that the SDK can generate from the schema if it makes sense. But yeah, if that's the only option, I don't know if there is anything else in JSON schema that we could use to provide extra metadata that is not then required in the message itself, in the event itself. Maybe that's something that I can look into. If there's something we can embed in the schema in a better way.
Yeah, that's an option then if there is such a thing in JSON schema to provide metadata. Because then we should probably have it also for the predicate name.
I just put a comment on here.
Good.
Okay. Well, thanks a lot for the feedback on this. We spent already 20 minutes on this, so maybe it's good to move forward. If that's all right. Yeah. All right. So next bit on the agenda is the ticket proposal.
Hey, yeah. I think I've addressed all of the outstanding comments on the PR, so no update really, but yeah, if you guys have time to just review that and let me know if there's anything else that's unaddressed.
Thanks, Sean. Yeah, currently it's I marked it for release 05, but if it's close to merge, we could even include it in the next release. There's no point for waiting. So yeah, let's hopefully we can merge it soon then. Here. Yeah, so there are a few things for me and you and now to make sure that we resolve or comment again. All right.
Thanks.
Thanks.
I'll
Thanks.
try to spend some time tomorrow on reviewing it, re-reviewing it again. So I'll make sure to do it soon.
Cool. And thanks, Sean. So for the link proposal, well, Ben is not here. Let's check what is the status of conversations. Okay, we only have one unresolved conversation. Yeah. So I think this is probably getting close to being ready as well. I think, yeah, so there is still some failures in the CI that yeah, then we'll have to address. So okay. I think that's it on the link proposal. So next I had the custom event proposal, which is made of two parts, two PRs. The first one is about adding the schema URI. So the first PR has been reviewed and approved by Emil, I think. So this is about adding the schema URI field to the context. And there is a comment from Dan. I'm waiting for, I addressed it and I'm waiting for his reply. And from my perspective, if Dan is happy with it, we should go ahead and merge it. But if folks would like to review this first, please let me know. I'll put a comment on the PR. We'll wait. And the second PR needs reviews. The second PR is the PR that had the actual functionality about custom events. So it introduces the CDEvent X type in the spec. And I also added a custom folder, which includes a README with the description about custom events that I copied from the HackMD, more or less. The schema, a schema.json for custom events, as well as a registry.md, which right now is empty. But the idea is that implementers that define their own custom events could register here so that the community is aware of what custom events exist on which tools. So please, if you're interested at the time, take a look. The PR is looks large because it adds one field to the context, which means then every single event gets the new field. So all examples, all schemas are updated. But in terms of actual content, it's not so large. Okay. Any questions, comments?
So I was flipping through the schema URI pull request, and pretty sure we decided that it was lowercase schema, uppercase U, lowercase RI, based on like what's already been established, throughout the spec for the way we would case it. And I just hit the custom thing, and the very first thing I hit, we've got a schema capital URI. I mean, we should probably.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. So that's actually something that Emil caught in the schema URI PR, and the second PR is based on top of that. So I updated it in the sorry, Zoom bar goes the way. So I updated it in the schema URI PR, not in the title. It's the title.
Oh yeah, I know that's not what I meant. Then in the custom events, you use schema URI capital.
Yeah. No, but because the other PR is basically on top of this.
Not done yet. Yeah.
So, and I haven't rebased after I updated this one. So
okay.
if you look into This one, it's actually schema URI with capital U, lowercase ri. And I was waiting for this one to merge before rebasing the other one.
Okay,
But
cool.
yeah, totally agree. Thanks for that, right? All right. There's nothing else on this. I guess the other thing we had on the agenda is the webhook adapter. Jalander.
Yes. Yeah, Sandra. Actually, so I think the design is almost reviewed and approved by Emil. So I think if we have any more comments, I think one comment from Emil, like to like using the translator versus adapter. But the name, repo name, we have changed to webhook adapter. So a couple of things are still translator. So I asked like one thing to change. If that is fine, so we can go ahead and update the naming. Emil, like you can have a look at once. So maybe, yeah. So I think that's one thing when is only open. I think so. If that is solved, we can merge.
Yeah, I don't remember. It was a couple of weeks ago since I looked at it, but I think I was a bit uncertain myself whether it would be okay to keep the name translator internally within the proposal, but have the main provided service as an adapter, named an adapter. Because internally, in some extent, you actually translate the data there. You don't really adapt the data, you translate it. But the service, at least me being non-native English speaking, by the way, I think service is kind of an adapter for SCM related data, or an adapter for messaging of SCM related data. While internally in that adapter, we actually translate some of the data. So maybe that's why I didn't really put any final input on that. So maybe other people on this call might have better opinions who are more native English speaking, whether this is really an adapter or a translator thing we talk about.
So even like the main CDEvents webhook adapter, so we are calling as an adapter, but internal, like I said, because that I didn't rename, let's say like Gerrit translator or GitHub translator. But for now, so we are keeping that as a Gerrit translator. So is it okay, like even that I mean, Gerrit translator also we call as Gerrit adapter, because it actually translates the events into from Gerrit to CDEvents and send it back. So that's the a translator which translates Gerrit event to CDEvent. Not sure, like we can call that as also adapter, and then
I would prefer to not make the final decision on that myself, but I don't know if no one else is willing to take it. I think we can have it as it is right now, unless someone else thinks otherwise. How did you, when you discussed this with Ben, by the way, since he is a native English speaker, did you have any opinions on adapter versus translator?
he hasn't given like more updates, but he said like we'll keep it this as is for now, and let's see if any changes comes in. So we'll do it in but later, but he's fine for now at least. Yeah. So
I thought we had a really long discussion about that.
Maybe we did.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yes.
so the repo is now an adapter repo, right? Right. The question is whether things should be called translator internally in it or not somewhere.
Right. And I didn't like the translator, just for the record, because, you know.
But does it make sense then to call everything adapters internally as well? When you
Oh yeah, it was a great argument.
Okay.
I'm just saying that I didn't like the translator piece because it doesn't make sense to me. Now, I
Yeah.
mean, that's because, you know, when I think of translators, I think of language translations and not URL translations, right? So, or, you know, data transformations. So that's the part that where, you know, and I think Ben made a good point of, well, you know, we're translating this data into this, you know, other thing. But yeah, I liked the adapter because it seemed more industry standard.
Just to throw a counter argument out there, I don't have a personal opinion. Like, I think adapter, translator, they're pretty much synonyms, but you know, we do kind of talk about CDEvents as being a language that systems can communicate in. So it is kind of translating between different languages, if you want to look at it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, in some sense, I think it is. I mean, if you, for example, in GitHub, you talk about pull requests, but in CDEvents, we talk about source changes or SCM changes. Those are the same things, but they are different languages mentioning them, so different vocabularies. So in that case, I think there's a translation going on between the term pull request and source change. But yeah.
I think one of the other things I've said, and I'm probably fine with, is if we just put it in the doc somewhere so that, you know, it explains what the translation is. And then once you have the context, you know, it's just English, it's just a word. So.
Yeah.
I am invested in what we decide on though, because I am kind of writing some similar things. So I would like to name them the same as what the community decides. So adapter or translator.
What'd you call them?
Right now I'm just trying to follow along. So I'm flip-flopping.
I mean, because, you know, this is the hardest thing we're going to do today.
Yeah.
Decide on this word,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, writing the code's triv.
Yeah.
And fixing
Right.
it is just said.
Yeah. Right now I'm
And
kind of going with adapter because that's kind of what we said last time, but I know there's still some debate.
Yeah, the reason why I think of adapter is I've seen it used in other places in references to webhooks, and then we do a bunch of Kafka stuff, and they have a lot of adapters that get the data from one format to a streaming format that you can put into Kafka. And so that's how I came at it. It doesn't mean I'm right, you know, but it just means that that's where my brain was, is that, you know, I think of webhooks and Kafka adapters do similar things. But yeah.
Yeah, I think there is a translation happening. And the reason why we are translating is to kind of adapt one interface to the other, if it makes sense. So I think both terms are applicable. Maybe adapter seems to be a slightly higher level to me.
Yeah, maybe adapters is there could be different types of adapters. There's some adapters do translations. Or maybe it's just adapters do the translating.
That goes back to, yeah, there you go. That's what I was going to get to, is that goes back to on the outside, it's an adapter, and internally it does translations.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards that as well, but I'm just thinking now when we provide this as a library, right, as well, generically, to be then applied to different SCM systems and specified for different SCM systems, then that library would contain probably some semi-internal methods, which might maybe serve as translators rather than adapters then.
Yeah, I could wholly see import CDEvents adapters, you know, def function translate, you know, data to return X. So yeah, I could definitely see that's perfectly fine with me. But the high level, it's an adapter.
Yeah, yeah. But where do we draw the line then? Where?
I don't know. I would
Yeah.
just, I'd put a bunch of stuff in and we'd have a pull request and the code would work and we'd argue about it for a few weeks. Not argue, we would just debate. We're not arguing.
Yeah. Discuss.
Right.
No, but yeah. I think maybe when we document this, when we describe what this thing does, then it is an adapter for SEM data.
Yes.
But then internally it does some translation. So I think it's fine that some of the API methods or classes are called translators then.
Mhm.
So I guess
And
the
then-
task for you, Jalander, is to make a good balance in between there.
Yeah. So right now, so that's what we are doing. The top level thing that we are calling as a CDEvents webhook adapter it is, and internally we have translators, and so different libraries can be created for different SEM systems or any applications like a Gerrit translator, GitHub translator, or any X translator or something. So that works good then. And this is in line with the RFC document is in line with current wordings, I think. Yeah. Yeah, I think that looks good then. Thanks.
All right.
Yeah, so and the next one is actually I created a PR for the webhook adapter. So I started implementation. So this is the main application, the Go application. So the PR is created. It's ready for initial review. The next one, Andrea, I think actually, if you want to comments.
Yeah, I will try. Not sure when I will be able to review that. Yeah, that's sorry, a lot of things. Is there is Ben one of the maintainers? I think of this repo.
Yeah,
You
so
also interested in reviewing?
I asked Ben also.
Okay. Yeah. Let me try. Yeah, I'll try to reserve some time for that. But if anyone else is interested, also please.
That's perfect. So.
Okay, thanks, Jalander, for driving this forward. Yeah, I think one option. I mean, it depends how confident you feel with this PR. I wouldn't want to slow you down in the very beginning of a project. So if you need to iterate quickly and add more functionality to the webhook adapter, I think we could have a policy in the beginning of merging PRs quickly and then adding more thorough reviews when we get closer to doing something like a release or something. It makes sense.
Okay. Sure.
All right. The Jenkins GSOC CDEvents plugin.
Yeah, I just added that. So I had a discussion with one of the guys behind this proposal last week, and I just now during the meeting got an updated, so that Chris Stern, who wrote this proposal, has now updated it because I had some concerns since we already have a Jenkins plugin for CDEvents provided by Fidelity. So I was just asking Chris there if he was aware of that and how this relates to that one. And he wasn't aware of that. So, but now he has updated the proposal. I haven't read it yet. So I just wanted to show the link there to the proposal, and all of you are free to go there and read it and see if you feel it's good enough. I should of course do that, but if you also are interested to do it, please do so. So we make sure that it will be a valuable plugin for us as well. Whether it would build on the existing one or whether it would be a completely new one, I don't know. I think the intention was actually to replace the plugin that was created, was it 2 years ago as a GSOC project, or maybe 3 years ago? And at that time, now they didn't know about the Fidelity version of it that was actually published. So
I think that the GSOC one was a CloudEvents plugin.
yeah, but it mentioned CDEvents as well, I think, in their use cases or in their somehow examples, right? Didn't they? At least they presented it to us as a plugin to be able to send CDEvents as well. And here now he has changed the title from CDEvents to CloudEvents also for this plugin, but still mentions CDEvents in the text down there. So yeah, I will read it in more detail and comment on it myself,
Okay.
but anyone is also, of course, free to do that.
Yeah, thanks for reaching out. I guess we I don't know. Do you know anything about the current status of the Jenkins plugin, Christian, by any chance? Are you involved in that on Fidelity side?
Sorry, you're asking that of me?
Yeah, I was wondering if you were involved in the Jenkins plugin that was produced by Fidelity.
No, work-wise, I don't do anything really CD related. We're just consuming team.
Okay, right. Okay, yeah. No, I think we should reach out to the author of the CDEvents plugin as well, to see if they're still maintaining it to the other side, or if they would be interested in handing over or collaborating on maintenance.
Yeah, I actually talked to Chris Stern about that and gave him the name of Jamie Plower, who actually was the one providing the Jenkins plugin from Fidelity. So I don't know if he has actually, if they have talked to each other, but I will check that as well.
All right. Thanks for this, Emma. Okay. Cool. Anything else anyone would like to discuss today?
So one thing I wanted to add, maybe like, is anyone interested on like integrating CDEvents with the Jira? So I think I see a couple of requests from the teams internally, so they are interested in looking CDEvents for Jira. So is there any interest from anyone like to see CDEvents integration with that?
I believe Ben has talked about that, right?
Sorry.
I think that Ben has talked about that from Apple.
I don't remember actually.
I think so.
Yeah, so I think we discussed like Atlassian products in the context of the Oasis group. So the sorry, the name is slipping my mind. But the interoperability group, they are putting the value stream group within Oasis. So they were interested in CDEvents and for providing interoperability for tools like Jira and other Jira or other similar competitor tools. But yeah, so I think we have not had any communication from them for some time. But we can definitely try again, Jalander, see to ping them and see and let them know that we are implementing Ticket events now, and what's their, oh, sorry, what's their current situation, if they're still interested in CDEvents or not.
Okay.
VSMI, right? VSMI.
Yeah. It's yeah.
Value stream mapping into interoperability.
Yeah, well, you mentioned, yeah. All right. So is that something you're interested into, Jalander, or Ericsson is interested in?
Yeah, so Ericsson is interested. So they're running some POC. So they have a tool set, kind of Spinnaker, Jenkins, Gerrit, and Jira. So they wanted to implement in real-time cases, but right now, so they wanted to try a POC with these tools. But I told them, like, currently we are working on Gerrit, but yeah, so I think Jenkins. So we need to look where the status of that. I think CDEvents plugin, whether it is available or not. Yeah, I think the Jira is, I thought it's kind of new. I didn't hear like anyone talking about this, but yeah, so if any inputs from you guys, it would be.
I mean, I'd certainly be interested as well. We have a bot that we use to consume CDEvents and update Jiras.
Yeah, yes. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not interested. We've got a bot that consumes events and updates Jiras, and it's the worst thing we've ever written. I'm kidding.
Not too late, Brad. No, I wrote down that you're not interested.
Yeah, I know. It's true. We can change it next week. Yeah, so the Jira integration is pretty interesting. Going to Jira is not too bad. Coming out of Jira is pretty interesting because of the custom fields in the Kafka, in the JSON data that comes out of Jenkins, and the fact that they weren't overly consistent with the type of messages they put on the Kafka topics. So it's kind of fun. So yeah.
Yeah, another use case for one of those adapters / translators.
Yeah, I mean, we ended up with a Go microservice. Well, all of our stuff's Go microservice, but you know, we end up with a separate container with Go templates in it that the other team was able to modify to turn the events into proper descriptions and update comments and stuff like that. And then they maintain the templates and stuff, and we maintain the robot. So it worked out kind of well. So I mean, I've got some experience with it, if you know anybody's interested in hearing how much I hated it. So
I think. All righty. Okay, anything else? No. See everyone next week.
see you guys next week.
All right. Have a good one.
Later.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.